This podcast is made possible in part by the National Guild of Community Arts Education, Discovery Jersey Arts, Artsworks, and the City of Newark. Please consider making a donation to enable us to continue producing programs like this, freely available to the public. For more information about our work and mission, please visit www.newarkschoolofthearts.org. Patricio Molina here, and welcome to another episode of Conversations at the Newark School of the Arts. This episode is for you if you're a writer or a composer who wants to learn more about the publishing industry. We discuss the selection procedure and receive guidance from the world's largest theatrical licensing agency on how to navigate an increasingly competitive field. Then, we get into the nitty-gritty of how writers and composers can find a means to have their work published, as well as alternative options for those who wish to opt out of the traditional publishing route. We wrap things up by addressing the problems that the publishing business is presently facing, including the threat of piracy and the preference in some writers to self-publish. We conclude the conversation by discussing how those problems will transform the industry in the future. My guest today is Bill Gaden, the president of Concord Theatricals Worldwide, the world's largest theatrical licensing business. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Being a publisher is not in the top priority of a child's wish list when they are thinking about what to do when they grow up. How do you become interested in the industry?
Well, it's a good question. And I don't think there's any kid out there who says, I want to be in music publishing. Certainly when I was growing up, I was, hugely into music and theater. I sang and played instruments. And so I always knew that it was, a very important part of my life and something that I was very, very passionate about. But I never thought that there was sort of an industry or a business behind music. I just thought about, watching people perform. And so I think, I'm very, very lucky that I get to work in an industry and in a business and a company where I am so passionate about what we do, about music. And all of my colleagues feel the same way. And so it's a wonderful, wonderful place to come every day and to see other passionate people about music. So in growing up, I always thought that music was a hobby. And then I guess I just sort of learned more and more about the fact that there is this business behind music. And so I started just thinking about, what do I really want to do? And I really wanted to work in a creative industry, but as a business person, because that's what I was really interested in, and sort of combine my two loves of the arts and creativity with my sort of analytical business mind. And as I say, I'm lucky enough to have found a great match of both of those. I think that the reason people don't grow up thinking I want to be a music publisher is because most people don't know what it is. And, in the traditional music business, I always say there's sort of the two sides of the business. One is the recorded music and one is music publishing. So in recorded music, we're talking about that actual recording and the performers who perform on that record. But music publishing, that's about the song and the people that created it or the work. So that can be the composers, the lyricist. And so music publishing is all about the song. And our clients are music creators. Now, music publishing, we do a lot of different things. So we have a department that does marketing and promotion. We have a department that does licensing. We're involved in developing the careers of the people that we represent, those writers of the works, composers, lyricists. And our job is to promote them and to promote their work. And so as music publishers across all the different departments that we have, we're deeply involved with the writers. We're deeply involved with their work and their careers, and we represent them. And so music publishing is very creative. It's also very strategic in thinking about short-term and long-term of careers and of specific works. And it's about, the business of music. So I find it a very exciting place. Sometimes someone will say to me, is music publishing just printing the music? And of course it's not. The print part of our business is one part of music publishing, an important part. But as I say, we're involved in everything else about promoting and protecting the work of our clients, and those clients are the writers or the music creators. So I find it very exciting, and I think if I'd known about it when I was a kid, I probably would have wanted to be in this business.
So I'm sure that you get, all the perks that you talked about, the marketing, taking care of the rights of the musicians. These are all very important perks for composers and writers. So I'm sure that you get a lot of material for consideration. So can you walk us through the process of the selection? I'm sure you get so much.
Sure. Well, it's important to know that we don't accept single pieces. So we represent composers or writers for a period of time. And so it might be a deal where we represent a composer for a 3-year period, and everything that's written during that period are the works that we would then publish. And that might come with also the back catalog of work that person had written as well. Sometimes we represent entire catalogs. And so we'll have the entire catalog that's written by a composer, and we may have that for a specific period of time, like 5 years or 10 years, but oftentimes we represent it for the life of the copyright. And because we want to be the best possible partners that we can with our clients, we want a long-term deal. We're investing a lot of time and energy and money in the people that we represent and the works that they've created. And so our goal is to have very, very long-term relationships. So we do, of course, we're seeing, lots and lots of people, lots and lots of work all the time. We have a department called A&R, Artists and Repertoire. And those are the people, that team, that are looking for the works and the composers and writers for us to represent. And so they're the ones that are out looking for opportunities. The A&R staff is out all the time attending concerts. They're meeting with lawyers and managers who represent composers all the time. And it's the A&R team that are really the ones that will work so closely with the development of these composers. For example, like on the pop music side, our A&R team are putting co-writers together. So we might represent one writer and think, I bet they could write some really wonderful music with someone else. And so we'll put them together. We have a studio that we can use for our composers as well. We submit their work for recordings. So, the A&R team is very aware of upcoming records that are going to be made. And so we'll submit our writers and their work to be recorded. So that's also part of what we do in our overall development of our clients. So, part of what we're looking for, of course, are up and coming composers, people who are early in their careers that we want to get in on the ground floor and help to develop their hopefully long-term success. We're also looking to sign established writers. So sometimes a particular writer will be with a music publisher and may be disappointed by the relationship or what's going on, and are looking for another music publisher. And so we're oftentimes talking about taking over an entire catalog of someone's work as well. And of course, we also represent quite a few estates. So, for example, we represent the estate of Irving Berlin. So all of our work is with his family. Now his daughters and some of their kids as well. And so we'll represent, the entire body of work by someone who's no longer with us, but we're working with their families or their estates. So, we're sort of, everyone is always on the lookout for the next exciting composer and what they're working on. And but focused is really the A&R team to do that. So that's where we sort of focus on the incoming music and people, and also our outgoing, trying to find them as well.
So do you have any advice for musicians that want to publish their work? And is self-publishing a viable option, especially for an increasingly competitive market? And I'm asking that because, if I wanted my music to be published, what are the steps? Is there a cost involved? Or is it just based on talent or potential for sales? How does it work? And do you have any advice for people like me?
Well, what I would say to people is to get into the music scene. Get your music performed as much as you possibly can, even if it's in friends' living rooms or someone's backyard. But I always urge, particularly young composers, to meet as many people as they can in the industry, to go out there and network, get your work listened to as much as you possibly can. Certainly these days, it's to build your social media profile. It's also, of course, to follow those people in the music business you admire. And also, it's like you never know when you're going to meet someone or hear something that is really exciting. And so again, I just think as much as young composers can be out and about, don't be shy about networking. Find the people that you admire, find the people whose work you love, and try to meet with them. You just never know. What's going to happen next, and how meeting, me today leads you to someone else tomorrow, and someone else to, the next day. And so in that case, I really think that people that are invested in the music business, that trying to grow their network in people that are performers and that are other writers, and try different things, and really try to get your name out there as much as you can. Music publishers, we always love to see if there's a buzz out there about somebody, and that buzz could be because you played your music in somebody's living room and a friend of mine happened to be there. You just never know. And certainly, the people that work in music publishing, as I said earlier, we're all passionate about music. But I tell you, I have colleagues who are composers. I have colleagues who play in symphonies. I have people who do community theater, people who all out there in the world of music all the time. And so we're out there certainly looking all the time. And so I just encourage everyone to really, just as much as you have the time and energy, to just jump in the deep end of the music business in whatever way that means for you, to get out and about. I think that's just the way to start to do it. I think when people talk about self-publishing, I think they're usually focused on the world of print, of just saying, well, should I put my music on paper or digital and get it out there? And certainly, there's, in my opinion, there's no reason not to make your music available in a digital way for downloaded sheet music. But as we've been talking about all of what music publishing is, you really can't do all the things that we do as a music publisher. So certainly getting your work out there on paper, absolutely. But looking for a real music publishing partner, someone who's going to sign you, I think is the way to start a career, and to have all of us in this music publishing world being your best promoter and marketer and licensor. So I do think that it's important to start to meet people in the business as well.
Yeah, that's great advice. And one of the things that attracted me to the music field was learning other people's music, composing, and that's a very alone activity. So going out there, meeting people, networking is something that I had to learn, and I'm learning to love it.
I agree with you about networking. Networking can be scary. It can be not natural to an awful lot of people. And, it's so much of how we all go in this world is by meeting others and introducing each other and things. And I always say to people about, young people about networking is, the best way to network is to make sure that you're up on what's going on in the industry that you're interested in. And so if you're interested in music, and you're bold enough to set up a networking appointment with somebody, when you go into that room, be ready to bring up topics. If somebody came to me and was, a classical composer and had booked a networking appointment, and they walked in and said to me, I've noticed that Carnegie Hall is programming in this way. And I think it's quite fascinating that they're not doing X, but they are doing Y. And I wondered, Bill, what do you think about that? So anything that's going on in the world where you can say, I've noticed X, Y, and Z, or I just read about, these three things, and I'd love to get your opinion on it. What that shows to me is that you're invested in this world, that you're invested in the business. You're reading about what's being programmed, which soloists are being booked, what conductors are doing, who's changing from this job to this job within the symphony world. Classical is your thing, or if it's pop music, ask me what I think about the top 5 songs that are on the charts right now, and tell me what your opinion is. I'm always looking to hear particularly young people's opinions. And I always have this joke where if somebody networks with me and they come in and I say, what kind of music do you like? And they say, oh, I like all kinds of music. I always think, no, you don't. I don't believe you. I would rather have somebody tell me the kind of music that they're passionate about and the kind of music that they absolutely can't stand, because that's certainly more insightful and it's a much more fun conversation.
Yeah, and the advice, for networking, this is the second time that I hear the same advice. Just have the best and most intriguing questions, and that opens up, the conversations.
Absolutely. And of course, these days, you can't ask questions that you can find on the internet, and there's so much information. So in the old days, people could ask me about my career, but now you can see my entire career on LinkedIn. So you don't want to come in with a question that you could have looked up. And so that's why these sort of more insightful questions, particularly about the industry and things that are going on and what's going on today, I think is a great way of attacking networking. And it hopefully will make people who are a little nervous about it feel a little more confident going in with 3 or 4 ideas of what they could talk about.
How composers get paid. Every every business runs this so differently from each other. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Sure. So this is probably the most important question. How do you get paid if you're a music creator? Good question. Basically, when people ask me this and I say, well, composers, songwriters, they get paid every time their music is heard or used. And that's exciting. So there's several different ways of doing that. So first kind of right is mechanical rights. And so composers and songwriters get paid whenever their song or their work, in the old days, we would have said sold. So if somebody bought a record or bought a CD, and so the composer gets a piece of that, of the money that's paid for that mechanical, as we call it, that, what used to be made of plastic and then now is made of metal. And so every time that your work is sold, then there's money that's coming to you. Now, the great thing that we've seen in recent years is the rise of streaming. And so streaming is also considered a mechanical right. And so when we are at home or on our phones or whatever, and we're streaming music, those music creators are also getting paid. And what's interesting about that is that it has created new and important value, particularly for what we call catalog or older songs. And so, for example, if I were to buy a few years ago Bruce Springsteen CD, Bruce would have gotten some money from that CD purchase. And then I could have listened to the CD a million times and Bruce doesn't get any more money. But now when I stream a Bruce Springsteen song, he gets money. And every single time I stream it, he gets money. And so this new revenue source has been very, very important in the world of music for performers and for composers. And so what we've seen is that the value of music, whether it be the actual music publishing, which is the value of the song or the work, or that particular recording, the value is going up and up and up. And that's awesome for the music industry because streaming has created this. And when we look at music streaming, the majority of it is older or catalog music. And so what we've seen in the last 6 to 12 months is many people actually selling their rights in their creations, whether it be the actual recordings or the actual songs or works. And so in the world of pop, Bruce Springsteen just sold many of his rights. Bob Dylan, Paul Simon, 3 of the 4 people in the band Fleetwood Mac. And when you read about this, what you'll see is sometimes people are selling what they owned in the recordings. Sometimes they're selling what they owned in the actual works or songs. Sometimes they're selling both. And sometimes they're actually even selling their name and likeness and image rights, which is also very interesting. So Tina Turner just sold whatever she had written her music publishing rights, whatever parts of the recordings she owned on her recorded music rights, and she sold her name and image, which is so interesting. But as music publishers or recorded music, we see the great value of buying these catalogs. So that's mechanical.
You know, it comes with a little bit of criticism from the musician side as well. To be able to gain a good salary from streaming, you have to have millions or hundreds of thousands of streams. What do you think about this criticism? I have heard, a million times.
No, I certainly have heard the same thing, and I agree with you. I mean, I don't think that the way the money is split is the right way. I mean, I work with composers and writers. I think they should make more. So I emotionally completely agree with you. Absolutely. It's a very big issue about the rates that get paid and who negotiates those rates, and are those rates historic or are they not? Are they set by the government? There's all sorts of very complicated issues with that. And you're right. It's we say music publishing is a penny industry, and we're out to collect every single penny we possibly can on behalf of our clients. So we're working hard to do that. We're working hard to make those splits better. But it's an uphill battle. It is absolutely an uphill battle.
Yeah. So, and what about the performance side?
So on the performance side, so every time a piece is heard, the composer is also going to make money. And so, for example, if your music is played in a restaurant or a symphony hall or a bar or an office building, the composer, the songwriter, is going to also get paid a performance royalty. We have organizations we call them PROs, or Performing Rights Organizations. The most well-known is ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. And those organizations are collecting from all those venues around the world, and they're collecting them on behalf of the music creators. Those PROs, the ASCAPs, they then pay that money to us as the publisher of that music, and we then in turn pay it out to the music creators. So again, that's a second right called performance, which is, again, if the music is being enjoyed anywhere in any venue, the composer should share in that, and they do.
Now, is it any venue?
So any venue that plays music has to have a license.
Yeah.
And so the license is granted by either an ASCAP, a BMI, or a CSAC.
Okay.
Yeah. The third right or revenue stream I want to mention is called synchronization, or we call it just sync for short. And what synchronization is when we put a piece of music with a new picture, meaning that piece of music wasn't written to go with that picture, but now we're putting it with it. So the example would be that, let's say Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote My Favorite Things for The Sound of Music. But we're going to sync My Favorite Things, or license My Favorite Things, to a Diet Coke commercial. And so that song, My Favorite Things, is being synced with this new picture, a Diet Coke commercial. So these sync rights are when we put music into an ad commercial, a television show, a film, a video game, wherever we're syncing this music into a new use. We have a sync department that works very closely with all the people who are choosing the music for commercials or TV or film or video games. And we, the music publisher, along with the recorded music side for the actual recording, we negotiate each one of those deals separately, and then we license those rights. And sync can be very interesting. Sync can be very effective for younger up and coming songwriters and composers, because it's a marketing tool. I mean, getting for a pop music writer, getting your song in a TV show like Grey's Anatomy would be absolutely fantastic. And it would help grow you, as a music writer, a creator, and grow your brand and your catalog. And so, of course, that's why part of what we do as music publishers is proactively try to get syncs. Now, syncs can also be very effective for older songs because it keeps them in the public eye. So, for example, My Favorite Things is one of our most synced songs from Rodgers and Hammerstein. And it's used all the time in TV shows, in films, really in commercials all over the world. And so the world of synchronization is a very important part, not just of the revenue and the income for songwriters, but it helps to also market and promote their work through new ways of exploitation. So sync is a great part of the world of music licensing. So after sync, another way, of course, is the traditional print world. So, in the old days, it was always on paper. And now, of course, there's digital music that's available as well that we can print at home or just look at on our tablet or phone. And so for the print rights, a music publisher like Concord, we will work with a print company. The biggest one out there is Hal Leonard. They're a wonderful partner to us. And so all of our music writers and composers, we work with Hal Leonard for Hal Leonard to put together and to then market and distribute the actual sheet music, songbooks, digital sheet music, all of that sort of what we call the print world. And again, we negotiate a deal with Hal Leonard. Hal Leonard sells the music. They then remit the money back to us, and then we share it with the composers and the songwriters. So print remains, of course, a very important part of getting the music out there. And then the last piece, which is really just for classical music, is rental. And so when an orchestra or an opera company is doing a piece of classical music, they need to rent the actual orchestrations from us, the music publisher. And so we have in a warehouse all those orchestrations. Those full orchestrations cannot be bought. And so they come to us for rental. So for a classical composer, the world of rental music is also an important part of what we do. So those are, to me, the sort of the big main areas of the way that the composers make money, which, as we say, is a very important topic.
Yeah, that's a great summary of the publishing industry. That was the very, very concise.
Thank you.
Now, how is the music publishing business going to change in the next decade or so? And if you can address, some of the problems that you're facing with piracy, and I don't know if you call, self-publication and another threat to the publishing business. But if you can talk a little bit about, the different threats and how it will look like in 10 more years.
Well, great question. The biggest thing that I would point to is people need to respect copyright. Piracy is an issue. There's no question about that. But what part of our job as a music publisher is to educate, what is the value of music? I get so frustrated when people think that they should get music for free. Even in an educational setting, it needs to be respected and the music creator needs to be compensated. Sure, we can do great deals for educational institutions and we can work with them and we're super happy to do that. But bottom line, that music creator needs to be compensated if their music is going to be used. And so that's, protecting, as I say, my job as a music publisher is to protect and exploit, right? So I need to protect the music and I need to exploit it. So for example, one of my pet peeves is when someone who's throwing a benefit for a wonderful charity, and they come to us and they say, can we have the music for free? And what I want to say to them, although I usually don't, is, are you getting the catering for free for the benefit? Are you getting the flowers for free? Is the venue being donated? If not, why would you think that music should be free? And that's part of what we need to show people and to educate them that music is hugely valuable. And it needs to be thought of that way. So in that way, we are flying the flag and beating the drum that to respect copyright. And we do that, all over the world. But there is, with the age of digital, there is a huge piracy problem. You can access so much music for free, whether it's the actual recordings or even the sheet music. And so I think that's what we try to instill in young people, is the understanding that music is this incredibly important intellectual property that someone created, and it needs to be respected and it needs to be compensated. So we're constantly looking for people that are using music illegally and going after them. We have a very big legal department. And so, I do worry that as we get more and more of a technological society, we're just going to have to be more and more conscious of that. Now, on a positive note, also what's exciting about the next 10 years is that we see music being used in so many new ways. And that's better compensation, that's more compensation, and it's getting our music out there. So for example, Peloton. Now, people love to exercise to music. And those exercise companies need to make sure that they're compensating the composers and the songwriters. And a lot of times we've found recently that some of these companies don't do that. And so, for example, we actually sued Peloton. And we said, we are thrilled to have you use our music. We think it's great. You just need to make sure that we're compensated for it so that we can compensate the creators. And so we have a great new relationship with Peloton. Roblox as well. They started using music and not paying for it. So we have conversations with them, and we're talking to them about how about a great new relationship as well. So it happens in video games. It's happening sort of everywhere. We're looking at things like the metaverse, and the metaverse is going to be using music. And so it's exciting to find new uses, new opportunities, new ways to get the music and the music creators out there in the world. And so we're really excited about that. And we'll hopefully continue to find all these new ways of using music and have music being part of our lives in everything we do, because that benefits all of us that are in the music business, whether we're on the creative side or the business side.
What are some techniques that you have found that show the value of music and hopefully change the minds of individuals to pay for the value of the music?
Yeah, when we find an illegal use, for example, there was a candle company that was using My Favorite Things on their candles. So on the package of the candles, it said My Favorite Things. And then there were a series of candles. One was, Raindrops on Roses, fragrance. One was Whiskers on Kittens. One was Bright Copper Kettles. I don't really want to know what the smell of warm woolen mittens would be, but that was another one. So they were using in that case, our title and lyrics, not the music actually. But we always want to look at something like that, an infringement, and say, is this something we want to turn into a license? Is this positive? And so we went to the candle company and we said, we think this is brilliant. This is creative. This is wonderful. But you need to compensate the creator, in this case, the people that wrote the song, Rodgers and Hammerstein. And we ended up doing a wonderful license with them. And it was lucrative for them and it was lucrative for us. And so we're always looking to try to turn an opportunity, something that is not an opportunity, could even be an infringement, into an opportunity. And so in that way, if a wonderful nonprofit, wants to use some music and, I never want to give it away for free, but I will tell you, we do licenses for very, very, very small amounts of money. And that's more about just me making sure they understand the value of music. And maybe it's $100. It doesn't matter. But what matters is that the music is valuable, and we've put some kind of value on it, like they've put with the other things that are going on in the benefit or the nonprofit or whatever it is. And that's part of that sort of education. I do think that depending on where you are in your career, performing for free or having your piece played for free, sure, it should be compensated, and if it can be, that's great. But in the beginning of your career, as I said a few minutes ago, getting your music out there in any way you can, is a great thing. And so there's certainly at the beginning of careers a real balance. You know your value, you know your worth, and you know the worth of the music. But there's also, creating the beginning of a career. And if that means donating time, donating some work, donating some performance, I'm certainly not against that. I just think we all have to remember the value of what we're talking about.
That's great. Now, where can listeners go and learn more about the publishing field?
There's a great book. I'm looking at my bookshelf right now, which you can't tell, but there's a book, I think it's just simply called The Business of Music. it was written years ago, but it's a very good way of understanding like the little pieces of rights that I was talking about today. There's whole chapters on them, which is great. And so that's a fantastic book as well. But also just jumping on the websites, coming on to Concord Music Publishing website, and seeing the names of the departments and seeing what's going on. We've got on our website, like my competitors, all sorts of recent press releases and things we're talking about, and great deals we've done, and so just reading a lot of press about music publishing will certainly help everyone understand the rights we're dealing with, the initiatives we're taking, and what we're doing on behalf of our clients.
Well, thank you, Bill. It's been a joy talking with you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you again for having me. I've really appreciated talking to you.
So today's guest was Bill Gaden. Bill has worked in the music, media, entertainment business in New York and London, and his expertise includes company building, licensing, sales, and marketing for businesses. Bill is the president of Concord Theatrical Worldwide, the world's largest theatrical licensing agency. Bill was named one of Billboard's magazine 40 most powerful LGBTQ figures in music, and he earned a bachelor's degree from Hamilton College and an MBA from Harvard Business School. Visit www.newarkschoolofthearts.org to get access to the notes and links from this conversation. This is the conclusion of our program today. Please consider making a tax-deductible gift to support future programming like this. Please share this episode with someone you believe may benefit from it. Thank you for your continued support. Until next time, Patricio Molina here, reminding you to keep learning, to be creative, and to advocate for the change that you want.